One of the coolest parts about running and cycling both is that you can jump into anywhere. Like I could go to Downeyville, for example, and just go out and run on a trail. And if you see somebody, you're like, hey, I don't know where I am.
Yeah.
How do I get back? People are going to be cool. They're going to be like, okay, yeah, sure, go to here. I'll run with you, to get there. And I think that's one of the coolest parts about the community of anything dirt. Sure, I lived in South Lake Tahoe for a while on a project years ago, and I did a bunch of running and riding up there with just random people I met at coffee shops. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, hey, you guys know where to go? Like, hey, dude, come with us.
Hey, welcome back to the Sierra Rick Now podcast. This is your host, Charlie Pankey. We are excited to have you here back this week. We have a fun show for you today. Yeah, who likes to get uncomfortable? That's not me, okay? I like to just do uncomfortable things. But today's show is so far out of my comfort wheelhouse to some of the things we're going to talk about that I'm super glad to have our guest on the show because he's in that world. He loves that world. My guest today is Josh Sprague. He's a CEO and founder of several different brands we're going to talk about today. But Josh loves ultra stuff, man, like ultra running, trail, mountain biking, the things that we love in the Sierra. Josh is part of your community, and I look forward to picking Josh's brain today because I need to understand why.
Sure.
Josh, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Looking forward to some fun conversation.
Very good. Now, you're based in Austin, Texas.
Yep.
But when you wrote to me, you talked a lot about mountain community and building community and the fact that you just loved these ultra running and mountain biking, some of these ultra sports and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But what is your background? What drew you to that type of activity in the mountains or wherever you're playing at? What's the story behind that?
Sure. Yeah, so I've always been. I grew up a country kid, actually in Kansas, where there weren't any mountains.
Okay, very flat in Kansas.
Hills, believe it or not. Eastern Kansas has big hills. We always get a bad racket in Kansas because people drive across Kansas and they don't recognize Eastern Kansas for what it is because they think they're still Missouri, and then they drive through all the flat part of Kansas and then the flat part of Eastern Colorado, which also sucks. Then you hit the mountains, and yet Kansas gets blamed for Eastern Colorado's flatness as well as its own. So that's where we those Kansas people, we got to stick together because we have awesome, hill country.
I gotcha.
But that being said, when I started Orange Mud, we lived in California, and the mountains in Southern California were fantastic, and it's great where you can be right in the middle of the Inland Empire where we were, Corona, Orange County, et cetera. But yet you could be surfing, but you could also be skiing in the same day or hiking and mountain biking and everything. And the trail running and ultra community there was fantastic. And then we actually, not long after we started Orange Mud, we were able to live anywhere we wanted once we quit our day jobs, and we moved to Colorado. So we were in the mountains and there in the Front Range, which I spent more time riding my gravel bike on the Front Range, just heading east towards Kansas. I guess I was trying to get back, but I couldn't quite pedal that far, or I didn't. But so yeah, it's just love for dirt. I always like to get outside, regardless of where it is. And even now, I search out my hometown trails. We don't have mountains here in Austin, but we have some fantastic hill country. We've got some pretty big little mini mountains or mini hills.
I love that. My readers who've listened to me for years, they know about this time of year, I get this itch for dirt. Right? Yeah. It's like, I don't care if there's snow anymore. I'm putting the snowshoes away. Yeah. Where's the dirt? I want to be boots in dirt, falling down, camping, wherever I can.
Exactly.
And I think it's innate in our human, maybe it's men, I don't know. It's just like, let's go get dirty, right?
The views of a mountain, you can't look at mountains in topography. I would just say even topography. It's all about a distant view. I think it's a distant view. And whether the distant view is flat or rolling hills or mountains, it's no different. There's something about that opens a piece of our brains that I don't think maybe any of us really truly understand, but it's awesome always.
Yeah, I'll never forget. My wife, this is 14 years ago now. I just remember my kids had grown up and they got to that stage in high school where they didn't need dad as much anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I was just kind of sitting around not knowing what to do. And my wife, lucky for me, just recognized, you need to go. Just go to the mountains and disappear. And so I used to just take these day things. I always felt guilty when I first started, go to a lake, and I'd come back just like, I had the best day ever.
Yeah.
And then I felt guilty because I didn't take them with me, right?
Sorry,
and then slowly just became part of our nature. And my wife goes, no, I need you to go. You need to go be that guy because I like when you come home. versus who you are right now. So it was part of who we are. Talk about your trail communities as you got into ultra running and gravel biking. The gravel bike community is something that I'm used to in the Downeyville area, and these guys up in that region. Talk about how you got started in those communities. What those have meant to your development as a business person, in your personal life in mountains.
Yeah. So for me, the real root of it really, I think, stemmed from, again, growing up in Kansas and the country there. I just always appreciated gravel roads and dirt, and mainly because I grew up on them. I didn't have a choice. It's a good thing I liked them. But but that being said, I was living in Arizona actually at the time, and back in my early 20s, and I read in National Geographic Adventure they had an article about the Flint Hills Death Ride. It was a 90-mile gravel bike race in Kansas.
Wow.
And I was like, man, that sounds great. And it was in July. I'm like, that doesn't exactly sound great. But I thought, why not? I'll go back and see my old dad. So we go back there, and I go back there, and I do that first one, and that was really that first big taste of a 90-mile mountain bike race. Granted, I at that point had been racing mountain bikes quite a bit, and had done some really long adventures and 24-hour solo races and 50-mile mountain bike races, but that was the first of kind of a big just exploration onto dirt on two wheels. And that really, I think, was the starting point for progressing into bigger and bigger things. Now I've bicycled up to 720-mile long gravel bike races, and is the longest. And from a trail running perspective, I've always been a trail runner. I mean, I grew up racing cross country, and then I just always liked hiking and running on dirt. So I'd run my little trails back there in Kansas. And as I gravitated to more and more cycling, I started adventure racing, and that gave me this taste into, I'm going to run for a while, but I'm going to bike for a while. I'm going to kayak for a while. And I liked that variety. I liked to basically bike until my butt hurt, and then I'd go and I'd run until my feet hurt, and then I'd be happy to get back on my bike seat again or paddle, or vice versa. So it all kind of just cycled, through just the quest of finding something ultimately that scares you. That's ultimately what drove everything for me.
I can so relate to that. If I switch back to backpacking, right? I remember the first time I thought about backpacking. I'd hunted all my life with my dad in the backcountry, but we never, a couple hundred yards from the truck was probably the furthest we ever really had to park a tent, besides walking in the woods, right? So I'm never afraid of being in the woods. But I remember I first thought about backpacking, and 7 miles seemed like that's far enough to scare me enough. I think that's about my limit, right? And overnight with only 2 nights, and it was like all these freaky things. I was up with a flashlight all night looking for bears and all, doing the whole thing. And now it's like if it's not 5 nights and I'm traveling, 40 miles, I still haven't done like a PCT or anything like that, but it's like, I wonder what that is about the human nature for us to be a little bit afraid to start something new, but then just have that, I don't know, what is it, that gut instinct that you just, want to go further. How much further can I push it? Right. Yeah. And you ultra guys, you're different, right? I met a guy just in OMA 2 months ago. He said he ran the French marathon in Paris, decided to run back to the UK. Yeah. So took the channel over under the sea, but ran all the way to there, picked up his brother, ran into London, and the next day ran the London Marathon. I'm going, that's just a mentality I don't get.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, the more you do, it's actually, it makes everything easier. And
does it? Okay.
Like the first time I did a marathon, I did the Rock and Roll Marathon. I think it was 2003. And when I did that, it was more just a bucket list thing. And we trained for that. We spent a lot of time running, very dedicated, no kids at the time, just putting a lot of time into running. And I remember thinking, man, that's a long freaking ways. Yeah. It was a long ways. It hurt. Like that last 6 miles, 8 miles, it just was uncomfortable. It was like 93 degrees in January in Arizona.
Crazy.
And it was just uncomfortable, but it was something I was really proud of. And, I've subsequently done many other marathons and half marathons, Ironman, and to tie those in. And then once you run your first 50K, you're like, this is actually fun. I'm on dirt. You can acceptably walk, and you can eat as many gummy bears, which you may get sick from, but you can eat as much junk and everything as you want on course. And it's actually encouraged by people. people are there having a good time. Where a lot of
Mhm.
times in marathons, I'm not going to say people aren't there having a good time, but there's a lot of people that are focused.
Yeah.
Trail runners are not. They're like, hey, how are you doing today? Are you enjoying this? Why did you do this? How's everything else going? And then from there, you jump to 50 miles. You're like, wow, 50 miles, that's a long ways. And it is a long ways, but it's not all that bad because you're on pavement or so hopefully hardly any pavement. You're on dirt and you're enjoying things. You're looking at the birds, the bugs, the snakes, and whatever else is out there. And again, you're eating good food and enjoying other people. And then you go to 100 miles and then you're like, this sucks. This hurts. For most people, I think most people would acknowledge that running 100 miles significantly more uncomfortable, will likely cause some sort of flesh, if not bone or bruising damage in your body. And then a lot of us, you do it a handful of times, you're like, maybe that's too far. How about 50 and under? And then from there, all those other distances become easy. And I'm not going to say they're easy to do, but in your brain, it's easy because you've reset everything. And now all of a sudden, like I'd run 50 miles tomorrow and I wouldn't be nervous about it. I wouldn't run 100 miles without training.
Yeah.
But only because I don't want to, hurt myself. But once you do these bigger and bigger things, it makes the shorter things so much easier. And because you can wrap your brain around it. But it's no different than somebody you've only ran 3 miles. Their thought of running 5 miles is a lot, or 10 or 20 or 30. But as soon as you do it, you're like, oh, wow, what else would I have done in that 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of my life, whatever the distance is, that would have been so hard? Like, is it worse than working? Never.
The answer, never.
Yes.
Never. That's a
it's
good point.
It's better to do that. And so that's where I enjoy that part. But it is a weird psychological switch to go from doing all these things and each time being nervous. And then once you've done it, then I'm not going to say you're not a little bit nervous, but for the most part, once you keep going up the spectrum, then all of a sudden you're not really afraid of much. And I'm not saying that's a great thing. If anything, you can almost lose some of your motivation, or you has to switch it to some other new discipline. You're like, okay, exactly. If I'm gonna run 50 miles, but I'm gonna stop and do push-ups every mile or something. You got to come up with something fun.
You made a comment about the community, and I want to kind of circle back to that real quick, because that's one thing. Like when I always talk about this, like I'm not a skier, but ski community to me is some of the best people. They're just so fascinating to be around. They're so positive, and I have to think the mountain biking community is the same way. Every time I land, our climbing community, they have these little cultures, right? But when you're out with them, they are having so much fun.
Yeah.
And whatever their craft is, whatever pain they're putting their body into, right? Yeah. But the joy is contagious. Talk to me about that, and maybe go back to your Sierra roots a little bit when you're out in California. Sure. What'd that feel like? Was that something you just naturally came upon and kind of landed in, or have you always been like, I'm going to go build a community and people just followed you? I mean, how's that all come about?
No, a bit of both. I mean, I would say one of the coolest parts about running and cycling both is that you can jump into anywhere. Like I could go to Downeyville, for example, and just go out and run on a trail. And if you see somebody, you're like, hey, I don't know where I am. I don't know how to get back. People are going to be cool. They're going to be like, okay, sure, go to here. I'll run with you, to get there. And I think that's one of the coolest parts about the community of anything dirt. Sure, I lived in South Lake Tahoe for a while on a project years ago, and I did a bunch of running and riding up there with just random people I met at coffee shops. And I'm just like, hey, you guys know where to go? And like, hey, dude, come with us. We're gonna go out at 10 o'clock tomorrow. I'm like, all right, sounds great.
Perfect.
I think it's just much more prevalent versus maybe meeting somebody at a Starbucks in downtown Austin and be like, hey, you want to go for a run on the sidewalks later? That's just I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying that's something I would never engage with. But
it's a little different, right?
Some random, crackhead on the freaking trail, and I go for a run with him, and I wouldn't even think twice. I'm like, he's probably a real nice crackhead.
It's so funny you said it. I remember a hike I did, Horsetail Falls out of South Lake Tahoe. They're on 50. Hiked up on first time ever going back to Ropey Lake, right? And I'm walking past Avalanche Lake back there on top, and I run into this guy. He looks kind of almost homeless. He's laying on a piece of rock out in the middle of nowhere. No backpack, no water bottle. And I kind of, it's before I started volunteering. So it's like, hi. And my buddy is a little bit behind me because he goes, are you talking to that guy? I go, I don't know. And I started to walk away, and all of a sudden he started following us, right?
Yeah.
And now you're getting like, okay, this is like, something bad. So, I'm going to get murdered here in the wilderness type thing.
Yep.
We stopped at the next lake at the Ropey Lake, and I'm sitting there and I'm taking a swim, and he pulls up behind us, and I am a big guy, and but I'm a little nervous. I'm going. He was the nicest kid. He had been going through some really dark stuff in life, and was trying to get the wilderness to find himself, and he was lost, didn't know where he was at. He goes, "Dude, you guys look like you're having so much fun. Can I just follow you for a little while?" I go,
"Yeah,
sure." And so we hiked together for like 4 hours, and we got him back to his car. He didn't know which way the car was, but I just remember that feeling going. It was scary to meet somebody random in the wilderness. I'm not suggesting that's the best idea, but it is amazing who you can meet out on a trail, out in the mountains. If you're just willing to say hi, ask a question, and all of a sudden you really could become best long buddies and doing things. I never saw the guy again, but it was really kind of funny on that guy. He actually knew somebody I knew, which is, I got to tell that story later on, but it was small world things. But
well,
I don't know where I was really going with that.
Well, a giant piece of the community side, especially in the endurance sports community, specifically addressing the trail running community, that I've seen more than anything, is that there's an incredible amount of people that are using trail running as either a coping mechanism, whether it's it doesn't always have to be bad. I mean,
no,
I've had one of them days personally today where I'm like, man, I need a run or a ride. It
just feels good, right?
I've had a guy hack my Google ad account, and it's just put me in such a bad mood.
Oh no,
$4,000. So it's like, man, I need it. But some people use it as a coping mechanism for relieving the day's stress. But there's a lot of people in endurance sports in general that are often running they're either running from something, or they're using the endurance sport as a mechanism to be a better person. Drugs, alcohol, various addictions especially I've seen it just a lot in a lot of friends and people I've known in the trail running community, where this is their new addiction, but it's a great addiction.
It's a great addiction.
And I think as a result, there's a piece of community that gets fostered as a result of that, because I think a lot of people know, like, hey, you're different. If you're dumb enough to do the stuff that we're doing, it's not like you're just bored. You have a purpose. Like if you're going to go out and you're just going to run 30 miles on a Monday morning just for no good reason, on the trails, you may have something you're running from, or, you just have decided, I'm going to do this because it's a better choice than doing what I would do otherwise.
Yeah.
I think people kind of have that sort of connectivity, and I think that's what drives some of that community.
Yeah.
And again, the other piece of that I find cool is that I've ran into plenty of people on the trails, whether I'm mountain biking or trail running, and regardless of your beliefs or backgrounds, at least for that moment, you can exist as cool people together.
Exactly.
Where it's not often anymore you can have a conversation at a party if you have different political or religious or whatever it may be beliefs. But when you're out there running or biking, everybody's cool.
Everybody's cool. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. The mountain and outdoors just have something about that that's we all probably need. So let me do this.
That's what's important.
It is what's important, right? So we started the show. We told people you own multiple companies. You started Orange Mud many years ago. Yeah. You've got these other brands you're doing. Where did your outdoor life and passions for that? How did that spin into building products and gear meant for the outdoor industry? How did that come about? Are you a business person by nature? Was it just like, hey, I need this, I'm going to build it? Where did that come from?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. I've always been a business guy and had grown three other companies before starting Orange Mud. And for me, it's weird because I always tell people it's ironic that I own a company that's so focused on running, because I don't like running, but yet I run all the time. And it's something I've never really understood, because it's always uncomfortable. I've always told people, like, I don't think I've ever had a runner's high that you're talking about. I've never had that. I've never been running and be like, wow, this is just blissful today, and I can't feel my feet. I always feel my feet. I always have. I can go on a bike ride, you could hit me in the head with a hammer, and I'd be like, hey, you know what? I'm on a bike ride. It's cool. The running is not like that. It's always hard. So I wanted to build a backpack that was more stable, more breathable, more functional, that made me happier. Because I wanted to have something when I go for a run that I'm focusing on my run, not, dang it, I wish this pack felt better, or I wish this waist pack or handheld, whatever it is. And that's why I started. I just wanted something that was going to be ideally, honestly, for me, to make me happy, and
Okay.
then as a side project, I thought, well, maybe this will be something that we can grow into a business, and yeah, 14 years later, we're still rocking it.
Still rocking it. Yeah. So is your guys' approach then? You're obviously still active in all your industries. I mean, is it
Yeah.
is it really it's a solution oriented? We
Yep.
saw a need. We're trying to be innovative and creative.
Exactly.
Talk about how innovation it has a place in your life now. Then, based on your experiences as an
Sure.
outdoor person. So,
well, the cool part. So one of the coolest parts of running a long ways is that my endurance pack, which is our number one product, when I designed it, which was about probably 3 years into the business, I thought I had it perfected. But I'd always go for a run for at least 3 hours before, and make sure I loved a pack for at least 3 hours before I would launch it. Which, again, to most people, that's an incredible distance. But to an ultra runner, that's like, all right, good job. I mean, I did that on Thursday. A lot of ultra runners, it's not really a big deal. But what I found is that it takes a long ways to really make sure that something is going to perform, because maybe the materials change a little bit. Maybe your chemical composition, the way your skin is going to release a whole bunch of sweat. Maybe you're going to put out kind of like a salty sweat mixture that may have issues with fabrics and whatever. And so with that endurance pack, I thought I had it nailed. And then I went out one day. I think I ran 4 or 5 hours. And it was around that, towards the end of the run, where I was like, oh, this isn't quite right.
Yeah.
Like, how was it good so far up to here, and now it's not quite right? and then it led like another 4 months of development before I figured it out.
That's crazy.
But yeah, it's definitely one of the cool parts about testing gear that I enjoy. I mean, I need to design more gear, because it's always a good reason to tell my wife I need to go for a run or bike ride. It's really, really long. And so I've been slacking a little bit on that lately. But yeah, no, it's great to be constantly pushing in your own limits, and then testing out your own gear and making sure that I believe in it.
Yeah.
How can I push this out? I was like, hey, I made this cool product if I don't genuinely believe in it. And anybody that's met me and seen me on the finishing races, I start and finish everything I tackle. And I've done over 500 endurance races, and I've only DNF'd, I think, 3 over the years.
Yeah.
And one was hypothermia, where our whole team had to pull out. So, it's one of them things that, and the other 2 were broken feet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I genuinely test our gear out, and I just, I love it. It makes me proud to be able to, obviously, take it through the paces.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know, like at CR Rec, I started CR magazine, 14 years ago. And here I sit today, and sometimes I'll get to the spot where I'm going out because I have a story I need to write.
Yeah.
Versus I'm going out to be Charlie in the mountains, which is what started it all, right? And so I know that's something I'm very aware of. If you know what I mean, like, I'm only going here this weekend not because this is where I want to hike, it's because I need to write the story. Yeah. Versus I really would rather be down in Yosemite. It's opening weekend or whatever it is, right?
Sure.
How do you balance that as a business owner who has built their business around a passion they have that's part of their lifestyle? How's that balance for you?
Yeah, that part's tough. And there are plenty of times where I'm going to go do something because I know I need to, but I also want to.
You want to, yeah.
But I still feel like, which one am I actually doing?
Yeah.
And, if I had my druthers, I would go on a 6-7 hour bike ride once a week. And I like that. I like to go out and ride in the big hills and the dirt and just go. I love to go run around the lake once a week. It's 31 miles around the lake. I'd just like to do that once a week. But I can't always do that. But there's times where I'm like, I have to do this today because I need to test this out, and I have to push it to find out if there's still limits. And man, I think the number one thing is you still ultimately have to make yourself happy. And that I guess would be the one thing I would say, is that it doesn't really matter. We can all think about whoever, spouse, family, whoever, whatever they think about us. But ultimately, if we aren't happy about ourselves, then what's it matter? Then you're going to make your life bad anyway. So,
Josh,
there's times where I know my wife, she just learned about me. If I'm in a bad mood, she's like, yeah, you need to go for a run or a bike ride.
That's what Wendy does.
Like, you're right. Thanks. But then I'm not like, I have so much crap I need to do. But what's that crap matter? It's, you only get one shot. If you're freaking dead, you can't do it. So you might as well go do it and stay happy and stay alive.
Yeah, it's amazing how your relationships are improved when you've got some balance to it, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
for
it's
sure.
and it's amazing how our spouses they have they know that fine tuning of a dial going. It's now. You need to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
I'm
I've
gonna go
battled that
drop you
plenty of
off
times.
myself.
Yep. Yeah, plenty of times.
That's cool. Now you've traveled around a lot for business and stuff. How do you stay connected to the community? Moving
Yeah.
around. Is it one of the first thing you do? You drop your mountain bike and go ride it? Is that how you get
Man, I have.
connected? Or?
Yeah, I tell you what, even before I started these businesses, I was in the manufacturing space, and I'd fly around the country. And as opposed to many people that would go out and be like, hey, you want to go golfing somewhere?
Yeah.
I was like, I called like, hey, Brooke, I rented a mountain bike on Thursday at 2 p.m. Can you leave early to go mountain biking? And then we'll talk some business stuff, I guess.
Absolutely.
And man, I tell you what, it was one of the coolest parts of traveling on expense accounts is I'd go rent a nice bike and we'd have a good time. Now, that being said, it'd still be a billion times cheaper than going to a golf game. But we'd go out, we'd have a great mountain bike ride and go get some burger and beers afterwards and just enjoy it. And so, yeah, I've done that. Even I was over in Saigon when I've gone over there to visit my factory in Ho Chi Minh. In Vietnam. The first time I went there, the very first thing I did is I looked up the Hash House Harriers. They're a drinking club with a running problem. And I hit them up. I said, hey, I'm in town. I'd like to go out and go for a run. And they're like, well, cool. Whatever. Tuesday night, we're going for a run in the rubber tree plantation. And we're taking a bus like 40 miles north of the city. And we're just going to run in the dirt and rubber tree and drink beer. I'm like, fantastic.
I'm on board.
And the next thing you know, I end up freaking partying all night with these crazy people, and then multiple times for that next trip, and the next one after that. And so it is. It's a great way to go on that side. And then we have a 1,000-person ambassador team, almost. I think it's 900 and something. And I've traveled a ton to either races or just go into various areas and say, hey, who's in the area, or does anybody want to join me? I'm going to go do something stupid. And we've all met up, and it's dirt's always an easy.
Have your brands taken on that personality? Or do you find that your company brand and your employees, they all just kind of like, Josh has just got this way of how he, I'm listening to your Contagious, right? It's like, is that how
we always have fun.
Just have some fun.
Yeah. Well, as a matter of fact, like with our ambassador side, we've always treated it a bit differently. Like I wouldn't accept anybody into our ambassador program unless they were already a user of our product. Like I didn't want to just, bring people in like just so they get some stuff. I'm like, if you love our stuff and you like our brand ethos, which is get everyone outside, I don't care if you're the slowest or the fastest. And then the number one is you have to be a nice person. You have to be a positive influence. And every single person we have vetted going into that over 14 years. And we've kicked a few people out because they just, maybe didn't kind of match that ethos over time. But not many. Most people are just cool.
I like it.
Most people, they get it. It's why even from, brand politics, for example, I've told everybody since the beginning, like, look, we are not a political organization. We are a fun organization. That's all we do. Like, we don't post anything political. We're not taking stances on stuff. And some people in today's, age, they give me crap about it. They're like, well, Josh, you need to have a position. I'm like, no, I don't, because that's not what we're about. You want a position? There's a trillion other Facebook groups you can go jump into. 100%. If you want to come to a place, it's a safe space that wants to get you outside and go for a run, and we don't really care what you are about, whatever your belief is, this is the space. And we've always had that mentality. I told my sister on a deal years ago, she's like, Josh, we need to post something tonight on what our position is. I was like, you're fired if you post anything, just to be clear. And she's my sister. So I was like, I mean it. I mean, we don't do that. We are here for fun. I don't care what the situation is. And that's just been the ethos all along, for better or for worse. Like I said, some people are going to hate me for that, but I think it's insane. I think we all I personally don't want a movie actor or actress to tell me what I should be doing. As a brand, who am I?
It's why I do the show. I just want to have casual, real conversations. I'm not scripted. It's like I'm all over the place, right? That's great. We are coming up on a half hour. I think you and I could probably talk for an hour longer. We got a little synergy going here, but I want to give you an opportunity. I don't know how we switch from long endurance races to talking about gear on shops and some of that, but really we have a lot of listeners that come from Los Angeles, San Francisco, Fresno. They're coming to the mountains to come play, right? They're coming to come have a good time for the weekend on their bike, on their feet, whatever they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the users about some of your brands, how you help people get outdoors. Let me give you an open mic to kind of explain what you guys do as a company if people don't know.
Yeah, sure.
You have more than one brand, so pick the company you want.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, with us, I mean, in relation to your audience, Orange Mud is definitely the sweet spot. I mean, we have backpacks for like our Adventure Pack 12-liter is fantastic for anything you want to throw at it. If you're going to go out that day in the mountains where it's going to be, like I designed it when I lived in Colorado because there was days that it would be 90 when I start the bike ride, but it could be 20 degrees and snowing later on.
It could
be 90 again later on again. And so that 12 or 20 liter is great for your hiking and or people like to push those limits crowd or carrying extra gear and our we have bottle based packs for those that just want something simple, or waist belts for something simple, and everything I do is built with the direction of quality, stability, making sure the fluids are never going to move, or your gear in general is going to be rock solid on your body, so you'll actually enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, just look us up if you ever want to look for something.
I like
fun.
it. I like it. Yeah, we'll put some links and stuff down below in the videos and stuff. Josh, it's been. I have a way out in all the shows. I'm going to run a sponsor promo real quick here for Carson Valley. They're our sponsor.
Sure.
I can't do anything without them. And then I have 3 personal questions I'm going to ask you. That's how I end all my shows. They're kind of fun. Kind of dig deep in who you are a little bit. Okay.
Perfect.
You got him. So give me just a second.
Let's
Let me pull this up for the Carson Valley. If you're with us today, it's first time being with us. Don't forget to hit that like, submit button, all that stuff. Josh knows we can't do any of that without some help from the community. So we'd welcome that as well. But here's a call out from our sponsors here. So. Josh, I have no doubt you've probably mountain biked down in the Carson Valley in your days at South Lake Tahoe at some point.
I did. I put in the entire in 1999 and 2000. I put in the video detection system that went from Carson to Minden. And it's the reason why I was living in South Shore. I was like, what am I going to do this summer or this friggin' 9-month period or whatever? And it was an incredible amount of work. It was one of the most problematic locations in the whole country for that sort of technology at the time because of the mountain range and the cold winds that would drop down from Tahoe every freaking evening. Like every night, I'm like, how did it go from 90 to 40 like that?
Just like that, man, because the winds carry the speed and all that stuff. So, hey, so Josh, it's been great to get to know. I wish we had more time. I just like to keep my show pretty tied up here. But I got 3 questions for you. They're all fun, okay? But let's keep them kind of in the Sierra here for a moment. Yeah. So pretend your bag's packed behind you. You got to leave right now, and you're going to go play in the mountains, someplace in the Sierra, hopefully. Yeah. Anywhere that you want to go, where would you go and why?
I go do the Tahoe Rim Trail.
Oh yeah,
and just go big.
Go big. What's go big on the Tahoe Rim Trail look for you? Is that just like you're running it, or you're biking it, doing both? Or?
Well, I was on the running motion or running thought, but yeah, I think I'd probably go run it for over a couple days and enjoy it that way.
Very good. If you've been on the Tahoe Rim Trail, do you have a favorite overnight spot on the Tahoe Rim Trail? It's like do you just run the whole thing in one setting? You that guy?
Done.
Okay, get done. I like it. Very cool. All right. Well, after I get off the trail, I'm hiking for the day. I'm pretty hungry. Cheeseburger and milkshake's my kind of jam. What's your go-to food source after a big ultra event?
Man, I would say my go-to food source in most things when I'm craving something is almost always tacos. Don't get me wrong, good burger is one of my favorite things. I find them harder to find, but tacos, man, it's hard.
I have a lot of my guests like tacos afterwards. I've never had tacos after a hike. I'm gonna have to go try that out sometime.
There's a lot of good tacos in California for that matter too. I mean, yeah, but everywhere, you can't beat a good taco.
You can't get really good
tacos for that matter.
Yeah, are you variety taco guy? You like one carne, one fish, or do you like just all one?
I'll eat them all, man. You name it, I'll eat them all. Friggin' you chop up whatever it is. Yeah, it's good.
That's fantastic. Love a good taco. All right, final question for you. We're all gearheads in some way, right? Yeah. So I know you do gear for a living, but what's the one piece of gear people would be surprised you never leave home without?
Wool socks.
Wool socks, good call out.
I have I wear daily 6-inch merino wool socks. In my case, they are Orange Mud, but in fairness, any merino wool sock would be great. I think a merino wool sock is one of the greatest inventions of mankind. It's comfortable, it's breathable, it's great as a dress sock. If I'm biking, I've worn the same pair of socks for like 550 miles cycling.
Oh, absolutely.
And
yeah.
And you could just go, hike
Yeah.
Kilimanjaro.
Yep.
I think I had 2 pairs of socks for the whole day.
I'm sitting in my office right now in socks only, in my merino wool socks for the day. Yeah. I'm in agreement with you.
Yeah. If your feet aren't happy, man, you aren't either.
Take care of your feet. That's your life lesson of today's show, man. It doesn't matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
If you're on your feet, you're winning.
Yep.
Let's make that T-shirt. If you're on your feet, you're winning.
Exactly.
Right?
I like it.
That's our new slogan here. So, Josh, thank you so much. It's so much. I'm glad you reached out to me because I hadn't, you and I didn't know each other before your email, and I just thought, well, this guy sounds like a hoot. I'm going to have him on the show, and you had some sincere experience. That was really cool. I really love the fact that you not only have a passion for it, but you have a passion for the community of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's one thing that if you're a listener out there and you've just wanted to get out and try some things, I mean, ultra sports are hard, but obviously people are doing it. But you don't have to start that big. You can just start, on a run at Lake Tahoe or on Desolation Wilderness for the day, and just let it grow from there. But some people are wired like Josh, who just want to go out and see how far the body can go.
I think most are. They just haven't done it yet. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Very good. Josh, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being part of this Sierra Rex story this week, and we look forward to more stories from you in the future. If you're a listener to the first time out there, again, we'd love to have you back. Go ahead and hit like, subscribe, share, whatever it is. But leave us down a comment. What's the most grueling, what you would consider ultra outdoor activity that you've ever done? Huh? Did you do the whole Tahoe Rim Trail? Maybe you're like me. Your first trip out was only about 2 miles, and that was far enough for the day. All right.
That's all right.
Wherever you're at, we hope you're blessed and you have the outdoors in your future, and we'll see you again next week on the Sierra Rex Now podcast.